Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you something that I know is stupid, but I think is just funny enough to fucking work because numbers are funny. So, a week or two ago, I put out a Tyrannocyte video about, man, I wish this was better. And because things might not become better before the edition ends, I wanted to see what I could find with a Tyrannocyte to at least have fun with it while we're here. I've already made one video a couple of months ago about something funny regarding the Tyrannocyte, and I'm going to be putting another one in members because it'll be like deleted content, so you're not going to be missing out on anything because man, that video is well, the video itself is okay, I think, but I have another one that I'm going to be tossing in members. So there's that. But today, I have a really funny thing to me because numbers are funny. So we have the Tyrannocyte, which is a transport, a dedicated transport, which means it has to start with something inside of it, so keep that in mind. So here's the obligatory. You can put Tyrannocyte inside a Tyrannocyte, inside a Tyrannocyte, inside a Tyrannocyte, so on and so forth. That's insane. But going past that, it's a dedicated transport, so you'll need something inside of it. It is Great Devour, all the Tyranids have it. It's a monster with fly and a Vanguard Invader. So what funny thing can we figure out for the Tyrannocyte? Well, Vanguard Invader goes in Vanguard Onslaught. Huh. I was here thinking, and there are some funny things. Like, not even gonna lie. It's pretty funny in the fact that you can have gargoyles go in with Sheeted Broods on turn one, jail your opponent. You have your Lictors, your Von Rhine Sweepers, Death Leaper, your Infiltrators basically, screen whatever out. And you can also bring in Tyrannocytes full of, let's just say, Hormagaunts in them as well. And then you go touch all of your opponent's shit with Hormagaunts, Gargoyles, Broodlord Gene Stealers, and your opponent does not get to play the game anymore. Now, that's funny to me. A little bit evil. You're not going to do a lick of damage, but you're going to score every point out there for the most part, right? And that's Vanguard Onslaught. Oh, the other funny thing is, with the Tyrannocyte being a Vanguard Invader, it has 8 inches of movement and it does have OC. You can complete objectives and you can advance and charge the fucking Tyrannocyte into something just to tie something up. For the fuck of it. And they have to get through T9, 3 up save, and 10 wounds. For the hell of it. And they might just blow themselves up with deadly demise. Again, for the hell of it. But going past that, I then got to thinking about what I just said. I can tie things up for 10 wounds. It has OC, and it can charge. It can advance and charge because it is a flying monster. Has melee weapons. They hit on 4s. It could trigger Surprise Assault if you really needed it to with the ranged weapons. It can do these things. But let's kick it up a notch. Is there a way to kick it up a notch into how absolutely goofy we can get with this thing? Yeah, I've talked about it before, but it has a transport capacity of 1 Tyranid monster with 12 characteristics, 12 wounds as the characteristic or less. You can take the Tyrannocyte over to something that I've really been trying to speed up in my list. Crusher Stampede. You can take this monster into Crusher Stampede and you can deploy it behind a wall. Right? You would like to put your drop pod and deploy whatever you've had inside of it behind a wall probably, and then put it past that wall with untrammeled ferocity and 8 inches of movement. And why would you do that? Well, that's a fantastic question, and I'm not saying you should do this. But for 105 points, you get a 100 millimeter base monster with 10 wounds, T9, to block some bullshit that can come in from your reinforcements turn 1 with deep strike. Carrying another monster that you might want to be up there. And we'll get to that list in a second. But that's 105 points for a 100 millimeter base to block your opponent. Turn 1. We don't need gargoyles. We have the bigger gargoyles for 20 points more. And just for frame of reference, what does a 100 millimeter base look like? For those of us unfamiliar, or for those of you unfamiliar, what that might look like. What if I said that is the same size base as a Norn? Yes. For 105 points, you can block your opponent's movement with a 100 millimeter base that you don't care about. And you can put something inside of that 100 millimeter base that can make it stay a little bit longer. And help out the rest of your monsters to stay a little bit longer. Like a Psychophage. 120 by 92 millimeters, don't care about that, but it is 95 points with the 5 of Feel No Pain and gives out an aura of 6 of Feel No Pain. So, for 200 points, that's 60 points less than a Norn Emissary. About the same damage output if we're being honest. But you know, jokes aside, less damage output. For 60 points less, you can have a Psychophage and a Tyrannocyte, 100 millimeter base, second base, blocking whatever the fuck you need for 20 wounds between the two of them. Norn Emissary has 16 wounds. It might get taken down by an oath or two. Don't worry, they have plenty of those lately. So, just for frame of funny, a 105 point monster can come down turn 1 in Crusher Stampede, maybe behind a wall, then go past that wall with 8 inches of movement, and just be a absolute roadblock with a 100 millimeter base. And you might be wondering, alright, you could just bring the Tyrannocyte in any detachment and do this. Minus the go through walls. Well, I mean, it has fly, so. But whatever. Why would I do this in Crusher Stampede? Because the other funny thing is that if you do this in Crusher Stampede, let's just open that up right quick. You have go through walls. You can re-roll your hits. You can make it take longer for them by making it -1 to hit, possibly -1 to wound with Savage Roar. And if they don't respect it and let you charge them, you weren't going to do damage with the Tyrannocyte. But now, if you take any damage and are still there because they've wasted their time, you're hitting on 3s and can use massive impact to just score a couple of additional mortal wounds for 105 points and a 100 millimeter base. Now, that's all fun and games. Let's try to be a teensy bit serious as to why you might even consider the Tyrannocyte in a Crusher Stampede list. Well, we already had Psychophage. We've seen these in Crusher Stampede lists. Fair enough. Pretty good. We have the Swarm Lord, also seen this in quite the amount of Crusher Stampede lists because people want that additional command point. Now, mind you, if you're not on the board turn 1, you will be missing out on 1 command point. But if you are playing a double Hive Tyrant build, you won't miss it too much. And you can put the Malign Presence aura smack dab in the middle of the board and get that going really quickly. So now your opponent is upsetty spaghetti and they have a 100 millimeter base to get through your Swarm Lord, more or less. Don't do it so that they can just consolidate into you, right? But you know what I mean. Next up, we have the Screamer Killer, where we've seen the Screamer Killer get dropped in Vanguard Onslaught recently. But the other thing is, it has Assault and 8 inches of movement. So yeah, if it gets dropped in somewhere on turn 1, turn 2, then you spend a command point, because one of the biggest things about the Screamer Killer is trying to keep this thing alive as it gets up the board. But give it Assault with a blast weapon. After it comes out of an egg and can go through walls, now you have an assault weapon for a Screamer Killer that's a little bit more lore accurate of just going out there and doing what it can do. Now, why would you ever want to bring a Screamer Killer besides possibly? Now, I will say, people did like the Screamer Killer in Crusher Stampede because a lot of people were misreading Savage Roar. But beyond that, you go to hitting on 3s and 2s for 10 attacks, strength 10, AP 2, damage 3. That's pretty darn good. But beyond that, why would we bring the Screamer Killer? Are we going for the Battle Shock test? Subtracting 1 after shooting? Possibly. We can be, because we're also seeing an increase in people bringing the Neurotyrant again. Neurotyrant, as we know, with Node Lash, while this model is leading the unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If the target is Battle Shocked, add 1 to the wound roll as well. Alright, what will we be putting with the Neurotyrant? Well, again, we're in Crusher Stampede. You can kind of take your pick. Do you want to go with the classic Zoes? And the fact that, well, alright, now you have a decent shooting platform. +1 to wound, +1 to hit from being attached to the Neurotyrant, +1 to wound because they failed the Screamer Killer Battle Shock test. Yeah, that's alright. No Neurolictor required. Or you could also go the route of putting the Tyrant Guard with the Neurotyrant, because as we've seen, Tyrant Guard with Tyrants actually isn't too bad. Now, I will add this caveat. Listening to pretty much all the videos of people that we've seen bring it lately, they all seem to agree that Tyrant Guard are a little bit more squishy than they expected. It got them where it is, and I'm saying this across a couple of people's videos and inputs and whatnot. So be careful with this if this is what you want to do. But the Tyrant Guard option in Crusher Stampede is a little bit more viable in the fact that they will gain bonus OC because it's the characteristic of models until one of them dies. Doesn't really affect them once one of them dies, so you won't be getting +1 to hit or +1 to wound. But beyond that, you also have Savage Roar and Rampaging Monstrosities, because Savage Roar is a little bit better on models that are a little bit tougher, going to -1 to hit, possibly -1 to wound. And if they're Battle Shocked after that, well, guess what? Now your unit attached to a Neurotyrant is doing +1 to wound to your opponent, so that's pretty cool. And Rampaging Monstrosities, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, reroll the hit. Doesn't say it has to be the monster models, a monster's unit. So you can give your Neurotyrant and Tyrant Guard reroll hits, possibly into twin-linked weapons. Also, again, a caveat from people that play the Tyrant Guard far more often than I do. Maybe not count too highly on the Crushing Claws and Rending Claws. But, just saying, the option is there as well. So, we have all of this stemming from, what if I bring a Tyrannocyte in my Crusher Stampede list? I'm just saying, if you have the model and you really want to use them, this isn't the worst thing possible. I'm also saying that, well, it's pretty fucking funny. And I like funny. So, if you're looking for something funny to do with a Tyrannocyte, try it in Crusher Stampede today! So yeah, if you like the video, like it, got a comment for me, comment, and until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.